Hey, what's going on everyone? Welcome back to another episode of Star Wars Coffee. In today's episode, we're going to be talking about Disney throwing out Anakin. That's today here on Star Wars Coffee. Welcome back to all of the returning subscribers, but if you're new to the channel and you're finding me for the first time, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button on this video and any other video that you watch, and be sure to hit that notification bell not once, but twice, so that you're always notified the second a new video goes live. Alright, what I wanted to do in today's video is talk about the sequel trilogy in respect to what Lucas had set up throughout the first 6 films. So we had Anakin as the chosen one, right? So Anakin is the chosen one. Through 1 through 3, we see his rise and fall from a great Jedi to Vader. Then we see his redemption arc from 4 to 6. So we go from Vader back to Anakin, and we get that proof in the fact that he's back to a Force ghost in the end of Return of the Jedi. And so now we're in the sequel trilogy where we have that 30-year span of time, and now we have found out the fact that Palpatine didn't really die. He's clearly going to be in the movie at this point. Anybody who doubted that at this point after this final trailer cannot really deny that anymore. We see him in the trailer, we hear his voice again in the trailer, we get new dialogue from him in the trailer. So he's definitely going to be in the movie. JJ confirmed the fact that he's going to be in the movie. JJ was surprised that his presence on set didn't leak to the media. And so Palpatine is going to be in it, which means Palpatine didn't die, which means Anakin didn't bring balance to the Force. So Palpatine was supposed to be the big bad, and once he was gone, we were supposed to have that balance of the Force, because that's where Return of the Jedi concluded. The story was concluded. In 30 years, George wanted to make another one focusing on the kids. We don't really know exactly his ironclad plan for that. So with what we have, his plan was done, right? So Anakin brought power to the Force, so the prophecy that Lucas brought back in 1 to 3 was fulfilled. Anakin saves the day, balance is brought back to the Force. Luke was what instrument that Anakin used in a sense to bring that Force back to the balanced. So what does this mean now? Well, it really means that Palpatine killed Anakin. Palpatine killed Anakin because Vader ceased to be when Palpatine decided to overthrow the Emperor into the shaft, right? And so really, Palpatine won that fight. We don't know how he survived. Presumably, we'll find that out. But, you know, at the rate of this sequel trilogy with what we know about Snoke, which is really not much, we have a good slim chance that we might find out where Palpatine survived, kind of like we did with Darth Maul in the Clone Wars. He survived. We found that out. And then he was in Rebels before Kenobi finally put the nail through him. And so Palpatine killed Anakin. So there's 1 through 6, we have that whole flaw there about bringing balance to the Force, because clearly he didn't do it. And so now we have the question of, was the prophecy misunderstood? Was Anakin really the chosen one? Yes or no at this point? And we see throughout Lucas's film that the answer was supposed to be yes. But now Disney and Kathleen Kennedy and the execs over at Lucasfilm and Disney have said, nah, we're not going to do that. So now Disney's going to be forced to answer the question at some point in time, because I think that the diehards are going to be lashing out at them to the point of, will Disney ever answer this or ignore it? Was the prophecy misunderstood? Was Anakin really the chosen one? And if not, who is? Who is the real Skywalker who's going to bring balance to the Force? Because again, this is the Skywalker saga, so presumably it has to be a Skywalker. Otherwise, there's no point. We've been following the wrong characters throughout this whole period of time, right? So now we go back into the sequel trilogy, and I go back to Snoke, because that makes Supreme Leader Snoke a pawn in Palpatine's big plan. So there has to be some type of time between Snoke and Palpatine, unless Palpatine was really just laying low, waiting for Snoke to meet his end. But then if he was doing that, why is he choosing now to take power, right? So why is he choosing now to enact his master plan? The reason behind that, logically, and from a storytelling perspective, would be to tie those characters together. Presumably find out where Snoke got his power from, which is what Kylo's supposed to be doing at the beginning of the film, is figuring out how Snoke got his power, which leads him to the Emperor. So there's clearly supposed to be a tie-in there. And that makes the whole build-up from Snoke in The Force Awakens and The Last Jedi completely useless. So that whole story leak was just a quick shot to get to the bigger and the badder, right? Presumably we thought Kylo was going to be the big bad in this movie until we got the trailers, and now we have Palpatine. So that makes Snoke a completely pointless villain, and they wasted all this time promoting Snoke. So now we have to go back to the final question, which revolves around the title of the video, of Disney throwing out Anakin. And storytelling perspective, I don't think they're going to do this. I'll preface this by saying I don't think they're going to do this, but they should bring Anakin back. Anakin needs to have some type of role in this film in some way. Do I think that's going to happen? No. I don't think that's going to happen. Would I like it to happen? Absolutely. I love Anakin. Hayden Christensen's a baller. That would be great. And also for the fact of the fan service. I read the comments. I see all the comments. It seems like most people want Hayden back. I've seen a couple of people throwing sand jokes around there, and a couple of people who genuinely didn't like Hayden. But other than that, I'm seeing this great coming out of fans who love Hayden and want to see him back in Star Wars and thinks that it only makes sense, which I can't say I disagree with, because as I just laid out this argument, it makes perfect sense for Anakin to be back. Not only is he supposed to be the one who was about the prophecy, he's supposed to be the one to fill it. So wouldn't it be really cool if before Palpatine is defeated, Anakin, Force Ghost, somehow shows up and says something to Rey? We know that's not going to happen because we know Mark Hamill's going to do that with one or two scenes, just kind of like Obi-Wan did for Luke in the original trilogy. But Anakin should be back in some capacity in order to make this tie in correctly. Whether that's from a story that Rey heard or something, just at least a name drop. Give the fans a name drop or something. So Anakin's supposed to be back. He should be back. Disney has thrown him out. So let's reiterate the argument that we got. Palpatine didn't die. Anakin didn't bring balance to the Force. Palpatine killed Anakin. Anakin failed his prophecy. So that leads to the question of, was the prophecy misunderstood? And if not, will Disney ever answer this, or will Disney just continue to ignore it? Does this make Supreme Leader Snoke a completely useless pawn to just advance the plot further, wasting marketing dollars, promotion on him, which makes the fact here. Anakin should be back in some capacity if Disney has laid this out as I have said, which they have. And now I'm sure some of you are probably thinking about the other Anakin video that I did, and for those of you who haven't seen that, I will link that with the card right here, and I'll link it at the description for this video. But essentially, what some of you might be thinking is, well, Anakin's probably going to be in it because Disney silenced Hayden about the Fan X convention. And essentially, here's what happened. Just brief summary. If you want to go get the full story, I did quite a bit of research for that video. Again, you can watch that, but here's the gist. The fact is that Hayden and Ian were both at this Fan X conference, and they had a panel scheduled, and then nobody knows why, but that panel got stopped. So that panel was thwarted, but they still did sign autographs and they still took photos individually, and then they also did a photo session together, and there's pictures of that. You can find those if you search Fan X, Hayden Christensen, Ian McDiarmid. You'll be able to find some of those. But the other thing that makes this interesting is that that's not the only thing they did at the conference, right? So they also did a hospital visit together, which was not part of the Fan X conference. They just did this together. I'm not sure how this was organized. Maybe the hospital booked them both, but Hayden and Ian were taking pictures with fans who were in the hospital, and that's well documented too. And so the only thing that's different is the fact that the panel got canceled. If you remember from Star Wars Celebration a couple years ago, they did a panel together, and that went over really, really well. So now, naturally, I'm sure Fan X wanted to have another version of that, especially with the new movie coming out. But they couldn't do that because The Rise of Skywalker is coming out, and we know Ian's going to be in it, right? We got that fact pretty well confirmed now, so anybody who was relying on that not happening, that's happening. So it could be that they just canceled it because Ian's in it, and they didn't want to ask any questions that would give anything away for him, even though he could always just use them not at liberty to say, which is what Ewan McGregor did with Obi-Wan for a while. But it could also be because they didn't want anybody asking Hayden about anything with the movie coming out, and the fact that he could say he's in it or he couldn't say he's in it if he's not in it, and he didn't want to do anything around that, so Disney could have stopped the panel for that. But that's the gist of that. So Again, that video is in the description below. But that wraps things up for me here in this video. That's the argument I've laid out for why Disney's kind of thrown Anakin out the door. Let me know what you guys think about that in the comments down below. Thank you guys for watching. God bless, and may the Force be with you.